Roger Stone, one of Donald Trump's closest advisors, who Donald Trump personally pardoned, is going on about how this election, if Trump loses, is 100% fraudulent, and that Trump should essentially declare martial law to invalidate the election results. Basically what he's saying, and I'm going to paraphrase because he said this to Alex Jones and it's a long rambling rant, but what he said is if everyone voted once and if only citizens voted, basically he's implying that illegal immigrants are going to be voting multiple times, etc., then Trump would win, but he doesn't think that's going to happen, so Trump's going to lose, and because Trump loses, it's obviously not the will of the people, and so Trump should basically intervene to basically take over balloting stations, to, secure ballots to ensure they're not counted, and also in some cases to arrest members of the media, to arrest the Clinton family, to arrest anybody that is seen as participating in this quote-unquote fraud. This is very troubling because we have to be clear. Any random person can go on the internet on some very conservative far-right, show and ramble. But Roger Stone was a close advisor to Donald Trump. And there's no reason why Donald Trump pardons a man even before his second election. He still has to go to the people. There's no reason he pardons somebody with as severe charges as Roger Stone has if he doesn't have some kind of continuing relationship, if he doesn't have a great deal of loyalty to him, or if Trump sees great value in having Roger Stone able to help him. Maybe a bit of both. So it's not unreasonable to assume that Roger Stone, even if only indirectly and unofficially, still has the ear of Donald Trump and people in the Trump administration. I want to read you an excerpt from some reporting on this story because it really does show that this is somebody effectively calling for a dictatorial takeover of the United States of America if Trump doesn't end up winning on election night. It says here, Stone argued that, quote, the ballots in Nevada on election night should be seized by federal marshals and taken from the state because they are completely corrupted, and falsely said that, quote, we can prove voter fraud in the absentees right now. All of that is false. All of those claims of, provable voter fraud, that there is any voter fraud, that voter fraud is significant in any election, including this one, all demonstrably false. He specifically called for Trump to have absentee ballots seized in Clark County, Nevada, an area that leans Democratic. Stone went on to claim that the votes from Nevada should not be counted. They are already flooded with illegals. Again, this is baseless. And he also baselessly suggested that former Senator Harry Reid should be arrested and Trump should consider nationalizing Nevada State Police Force. So what you're seeing here is he wants an unconstitutional intrusion into Nevada state politics and local and state policing to basically deny people's right to vote. Either block them from voting now, or if they've submitted a ballot, just declare it, ipso facto, automatically illegal because, it must be fraudulent. These people aren't voting for Trump. They must be illegal and they must be voting 2, 3, 4, 5 times. He also goes to say that beyond Nevada, Stone recommended that Trump consider several actions to retain his power. Stone recommended that Trump appoint former Republican Bob Barr as a special counsel, quote, with the specific task of forming an election day operation using the FBI, federal marshals, and Republican state officials across the country to be prepared to file legal objections and, if necessary, to physically stand in the way of criminal activity. So what he's saying there is to use federal arms of government and to weaponize in a partisan sense any Republican official to literally physically block people from voting. He's saying literally stand in the way. What he's suggesting there is to have Republican officials, along with police and the FBI, physically block people from voting if they look like they're fraudulent. And you darn well know what that's going to mean. If you're black, if you're Hispanic, if you don't look like a Republican, you're going to be blocked from voting. This is what they did in the South prior to the Civil Rights Movement, prior to Martin Luther King, and prior to all these people. This is what they did. They just blocked people from voting. They literally stood there and threatened people with their lives and physical safety if they dared to exercise their right to vote. And that's what Roger Stone is suggesting Trump use the federal government to do. He even suggests here, Stone also urged Trump to consider declaring martial law or invoking the Insurrection Act, and then using his powers to arrest Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg, Apple CEO Tim Cook, the Clintons, and, quote, anybody who can be proven to be involved in illegal activity. And he notes specifically news outlets like the Daily Beast basically saying that they've been subverting the popular will somehow, and that every journalist at that outlet should be arrested, the outlet should be seized, and effectively shut down. This is very clearly a call towards a dictatorial, anti-democratic United States of America. This is what this man is calling for. Now, again, he does have no formal position of power right now. He doesn't have that. He's not any kind of special advisor to Trump like he was before. He doesn't have those direct levers of power. Nonetheless, he was very close to Trump. He went to prison. Trump pardoned him in the middle of his term, not as a last gasp thing you do before you leave the White House after 8 years. Trump still owes this man something, or Trump still feels like this man has value to him. If you don't think that Trump is considering something, along this line, I think we're being naive. I'm not necessarily convinced that Donald Trump would do everything here. I don't think he's going to be arresting, CEOs of companies. I don't see that as happening. But if you don't think he won't try to mass invalidate mail-in votes, which are disproportionately going to be Democratic because Democratic voters are more likely to be worried about this, crisis we're going through and they'll want to stay home, you're kidding yourself. He will use whatever he can within legal and quasi-legal means to steal this election. And there are people behind the scenes that have his ear that, if necessary, will push him to do far more dangerous things.